Very good. We're rapidly approaching the end of the Sefer. We're here up on page Ein Zayin in the last chapter, where the author is going through the rhythm of a person's daily life and how he can connect to the spheros in that rhythm. The first part of the day, of course, is the night. So he discussed how one should be connecting to the elements of the night. It's primarily through connecting by connecting through Malchus and everything that we discussed. We concluded yesterday with the idea that after a person wakes up, in order to be awake at midnight, or at least that's the way David HaMelech did it, then a person should be involved in Torah learning throughout the wee hours of the morning, but that's only after having slept some time before the night. And the point there is that since the dinim are usually have sway at night, the person should cover his body in this world in the cocoon of sleep, so that it should be protected from the negative forces which are afoot in the world, and rather go to sleep and do things which will ensure that his soul's elevation during sleep will be smooth and also restore the person's spiritual vital energy throughout the experience of this ascension in sleep, so that when he wakes up, as the world starts to awaken, which is from midnight on, because the dawn is approaching, so the world starts moving into a period of wakingness. So the person should also awaken himself and be involved in Torah study. And what we saw here is that when a person does that, he's actually connecting himself to the Shekhinah. He is bringing the Shekhinah from its place of dislocation back to becoming aligned with the sphere of Tiferes. His Torah learning, of course, connecting to the sphere of Tiferes, thereby aligning Malchus back with Tiferes. And then that sends reverberation throughout the spiritual realm in Gan Eden, so that the departed souls of the tzaddikim are very pleased with the people's Torah, which is being learned down here, because it actually brings the Shekhinah back into its proper abode, which everybody in the spiritual realm is happy about. And so that this wonderful kind of dynamic of energy, which is catalyzed through this person's learning of Torah, bring about a fusion of the Malchus and Tiferes, and bring about the fusion of Torah in this world and also the Torah of those who are departed. So that makes everything very pleasant, very serene, and very, I suppose, predisposed to for spirituality and what's going to be happening at the break of dawn for the new coming day. And that's where we left off with the coming day. So a person awakes, washes one's hands in order to rid oneself of the impurity, is engaged in Torah in order to connect the physical and the spiritual through the later period of the night, which is the more spiritual component of the night, connecting the Malchus with the Tiferes and this world with the Tzaddikim. And that takes place, the Torah learning, throughout the morning. If a person doesn't wake up immediately after Chatzos, he might wake up at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning or even 5 o'clock in the morning. But whenever it is, he should try and be engaged in learning Torah sometime before dawn, certainly before sunrise, so that he has contributed to the stirring up of all these wonderful things in the world and also in the spiritual realm before the time for prayer begins. And now that brings him to the preparation for prayer.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
We're not too far off the topic of night.
Yeah.
So what do you know about, I guess, the Torah perspective on if there is any mention of like lucid dreaming or astral projection or whatever that is?
Yeah. So I don't know if there is a reference to what I understand we refer to when we use the term lucid dreaming nowadays. But let me clarify, because my understanding of the term lucid dreaming nowadays is that a person is actually somewhat conscious, semi-conscious, consciously aware about his dream state and can intellectually or mentally navigate the dream. Yeah, and actually control the development of the dream.
Rather than a passive dream.
Yeah. Right. So I'm not aware of sources that discuss that, but more where people can, let's say, control or have an effect over the quality of the dream, not necessarily by, let's say, imposing their own mental thought processes over the dream and therefore regulating the actual content or the development of the dream, but more through meditation or through recitation of verses or different types of incantations and things like this, causing the spiritual realm to have an effect on the person's dream, which is really higher than lucid dreaming. He's kind of applying his active intellect and applying his spiritual powers to causing an effect from the spiritual realm to come into his dream state, and this way reveal to him something. What's the difference? Lucid dreaming is really just about a person's own, a person's imposing his own mental state on his dream experience, which is therefore going to be limited to his mental state and his imagination, which is not the case what we're talking about here. A person is proactively causing the spiritual realm, he's kind of intentionally causing an interaction or bringing about an interaction between the spiritual realm and himself through the dream as a venue for that interaction. So that the message that's being conveyed is not coming from within himself, which is imposed on his dream experience, but rather it's being introduced to him from that realm. And this way, secrets or things, visions of the future, or meanings of Torah are brought to this person because he brings that about. So it's related insofar as the person is proactively causing an effect, right, within his dream experience. But in lucid dreaming, it's within himself, and within the Torah sources, we're talking about from without himself.
But you're saying that you can use lucid dreaming to have like a spiritual experience, right?
You could do that, but again, if it's what we refer to, strictly speaking nowadays, as lucid dreaming, really, what the person is doing is, like I said, kind of imposing his conscious thought to whatever extent he's conscious during that semi-dream experience on the dream. So it's going to be really limited to something within himself.
So the highest spiritual potential would occur in a regular dream.
Yeah, in a regular dream, or I mean, through the venue of a regular dream, but not in a regular way. Whereas yesterday we were talking about sending the soul up in a particular trajectory under the influence of reciting the Shema and the other verses that are said there. So there are more Kabbalistic, practical Kabbalistic methods of directing that ascension of the soul during the sleep state, yeah, in order to do what's called she'elas cholam, to ask, to make specific requests of the heavenly realm during the dream state. So that's not something that the person, as far as I know, is like actually doing while he's asleep. But it's something that
it's possible if you're lucid dreaming, if that's what you have.
Yeah, that's an interesting possibility that maybe through lucid dreaming a person could also be engaged in guiding that dream or the interactions based on his recitation or his intentions, his kavanas during the actual lucid dream experience.
Yeah.
It's not my understanding that I haven't gone into it that much, but I don't remember seeing it described in that way. It's from what I've seen described, it sounds more like the way the trajectory of the soul is directed from the outset before going to sleep. That would send the soul, right, in a specific directed way, right, in order to receive these transmissions. And then the person would kind of passively be receiving them during the dream experience, and when he wakes up would have new knowledge. But it could be that the experience is being guided as the person is asleep in the form of lucid dreaming as well. What were we going to say, Mordechai? I think the Gemara says a person who gives a child a gift, he should let the parents know. One of the reasons is in order to stir up, the love between you and the parents. In other words, to be the amiable relations. Or if a person gives a gift to a person, you should let him know. In order, again, to show as an expression of goodwill towards the person. Even though often we're told that when you give something, charity, for example, it should be anonymous. It should be anonymous. But I guess if this is not maybe it's a scenario where it's not charity, so the person wouldn't be embarrassed about receiving. That's the advantage of being anonymous. That the person it's embarrassing to receive, and it's even more embarrassing when you have to face the person who you've received from. But maybe this other teaching they're referring to is not talking about a person who's necessarily in need, but to people who have, normal people. Neither one is a pauper, but you give something to somebody as an act of goodwill. So there you should let the person know and not be anonymous in order to further the feeling of goodwill. So that would relate to what you're saying about not only doing the act of giving, but letting the person know about it as well. Yeah, I had an interesting dream recently where one of the neighbors in our building, I don't know this woman, I don't speak to her, but she lives in the building, and I was in shul in the dream. I was in shul, and she came into the shul where the Rabbi was davening. She came into the shul. Everybody was davening. The Rabbi was davening in the front of the shul. She came in there, and there was a table by the Rebbe full of food and cakes and fruits. And she came in and she took a platter of cakes that were stacked up like this. And she went out of the shul. She has nothing to do with our shul. Her husband doesn't daven there, and I don't think she's even ever been there. But it was interesting. Yeah.
Did you ask her about it? If she had a dream?
No, I was thinking perhaps of telling her husband. I mean, I know you don't have anything to do with this rabbi, but I had this dream where your wife took out from the shul, next to the Rebbe, this platter laden with cakes and good delicacies and things, and it might be worthwhile to get to know this rabbi. Maybe ask him for a bracha. Could there be something is going on there?
So Jews believe dreams mean something, or?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh.
And also the way you interpret it, the people with your friends, how they interpret it, that plays a part.
That also plays a part, but I didn't think that was surprising, although we didn't elaborate it. It's true, but we did speak recently about how this, when we were talking about the sources say there are three types of dreams. There are nonsensical dreams, there are false dreams, and there are true dreams. Three types of dreams corresponding to the three parts of the night, where the nonsensical dreams are the dreams which are just the result of the mundane activities that we were involved in, therefore not conveying any prophetic message. It doesn't mean that they're nonsense in terms of nonsensical. It just means that there's nothing inherent necessarily true about them, other than the fact that they reveal what a person's been doing or what might be on a person's subconscious mind. But they don't convey any message from the non-physical world. They're just part of the the chatter of your mind, and that would correspond to the chamor noer that we're talking about, the donkey's braying reverberating through the first part of the night, meaning the material things that you're involved in are still reverberating into your sleep state and your dream experience, and they don't necessarily convey any message outside of the physical world. They might convey some import. It might reveal to a person what's on his mind consciously or subconsciously. Then there's the false dreams, which are the dreams that are catalyzed by the soul's interaction with spiritual forces of the negative realm, of the lower realm, like demons and the like. And those would be what the Gemara calls false dreams, the misleading dreams, dreams that a person's misled to having because of the interaction with these lower negative forces. And then the third type of dream are the true dreams, the ones that result from the soul's ascension into the higher spiritual realm and the interaction with angels and other forces, or even angels of prophecy, where the message that conveyed is prophetic and therefore true. And so in that respect, Judaism certainly gives credence to dreams. The third category of dreams would be viewed as a type of a...
Bad ones, those are the ones you have to tell it over in front of three people to change it.
Yeah, I mean, a bad dream can also be part of the third category. It might be some prophetic message about something bad that can happen. And therefore, I'm not necessarily saying that bad dreams are the demonic type and good ones are the angelic type, right? But but nightmares, or we spoke about wet dreams and things like that, the very intense type can be a result of the interaction of the soul with demons or negative forces. And prophetic dreams, whether they're good or bad, can be true. But yes, we do say that part of the interpretation, part of the realization of the dream depends on the actual interpretation of it, and so a person's always encouraged to interpret it positively. It's very interesting. recently my daughter had a dream that she was being chased and then bitten by a snake. So I told her the Gemara says that a person who has that dream should is actually a sign that the person's going to get money.
Really?
Yeah.
It's true. I'm just, is it the Gemara says that?
Yes, the Gemara says that.
I thought you were joking.
So the Gemara actually has different.
Yeah, the Gemara has a list of many dreams and their interpretation.
No way.
So that day,
Where
that very
do
day,
the dreams come from the Mishnah, and then it's the interpretations.
This discussion that the Gemara brings is based on no, it's based on verses. It's based on verses, and it's also based on just tradition that Chazal have. So there's a whole long discussion there, and the Gemara brings sources who are relevant for a lot of the interpretations of the dreams. Well, my daughter woke up and she was all flustered. She had this dream that the snake was chasing her and actually bit her. So I said to her, the Gemara says that the person who sees himself being bitten by a snake is a sign that he's going to get money, parnasa. So that very day, I'm telling you, within like 3 hours of her waking up and telling me that dream, somebody came up to me and gave me unexpected a sizable amount of money, just like that, out of the blue.
Wait, what?
Yeah, she had the dream. I guess maybe she had the money. I don't know, but she had the dream.
Gotta give her at least a commission.
Yeah, I gotta give her a commission, right? Oh, yeah. She's under my roof, so her money's my money. But she had this dream, and then I had this like totally unexpected. Just a person came out of the blue and said, "This is money that I was supposed to give you months ago, during Passover time, and I wasn't able to, and here it is." Yeah.
My father was Shlomosa. He had a dream that someone hit him. He was driving his car and someone hit him. And that day, and that's it.
Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. These things happen. These things happen. It's like, sometimes you think about somebody. All of a sudden you think somebody out of the blue. Not somebody that you kind
Someone hit him though? Or
Yeah, someone hit him.
it wasn't his fault?
Right, no, yeah.
Yeah, he could have been self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I had a dream that it was an accident, so let's have one. But
You think it's nothing like that.
all of a sudden you think, oh wow, I wonder, it's been a long time since I heard from Jimmy. I wonder what's going on with him. Wow, gosh, what's going 20 years have passed. I wonder what he's doing. All of a sudden, bring Jimmy calls. Hey, I was thinking about you. What's going on? Wow. That type of thing happens, right? 'Cause there's some kind of connection. What's that? Serendipity? But it's not just coincidental. There's like there's like transmissions of energy and communications and things like that, and the same thing can happen through the dream state. When a person's sleeping, and his conscious mind is quiet, and therefore his mental ear, in a way, is more open to hear these messages, they can be conveyed to a person, and then he wakes up. And he said, "Oh wow, so this type of thing can happen. It can happen for good or for bad, things like that."
My twin and I, when we were close, like through, like elementary school, middle school, and high school, we would always know like when each other were in trouble, or like we would sometimes call each other at the same time.
Really?
Yeah, it was really scary. And
Wow,
weird.
wow.
Or when someone was going through a hard time, we'd just go out of class and visit each other.
Huh?
And randomly, we would always be right.
Is that right?
Yeah,
And that
this is
happened
when
less as you got older?
as we went our own paths, or weren't
That's interesting.
close.
Yeah, you could say that you were just not as kind of physically close and therefore less sensitive to each other. But I think it also has to do with
But
what
we
I was saying
weren't really
before.
Close, at all. It was weird. We weren't friends.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Mhm.
I know what you mean. But it just meant to say, just being in physical proximity, But I think it's really more than that. I think it's like I was suggesting before, that as you get older and more mentally developed and more sophisticated, you're less sensitive to these types of things. It goes back to what we were talking a few days ago even, about the difference between human beings and animals, and how in many ways animals are more sensitive to spiritual realities than humans are, even though you'd think it would be the other way around. But it's our very, like I mentioned to you, that the Maharal makes the point that it's our very intellectual sophistication which prevents us from hearing things that we would otherwise hear. And so children, like in your childhood, it could be that you were both more simple then, and therefore more sensitive to what was going on with each other. But as you get older and involved in your own things, there's a lot more mental energy and noise which is being created, which is blocking out your ability to hear these things. But
weird experiences as a kid.
You had some weird experiences as a kid? Yeah.
Like I don't remember much, but I can vaguely remember them.
Huh.
Dissociative kind of experiences.
Yeah. My wife and I had initially 3 beautiful, lovely daughters, but we were also interested in having a son, and we didn't have. And at one point, my wife and I went to Meron, to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and we did, as I was told by my rabbi at that time, Rabbi Yosef Seinver Zatzal, the custom in Yerushalayim that a couple who would like children and a child or a boy should go up to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and pray to Hashem on behalf of the merit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And if a child is born, a boy child, they'll call the boy Shimon. The name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was there. So we went up there, and I remember I fasted that day, and we went up and we prayed and so forth and so on. And then, shortly thereafter, I had a dream where I was lying on my back out in some field or some open area, and everything was pitch black, and the sky was pitch black, and then all of a sudden it became studded with beautiful, scintillating little stars. And then one of the stars started falling out of the sky and came and approached, and it came closer and closer and closer, and I was lying down looking like this, and it came quite close, a large, brilliant, scintillating point of light. And then there emerged out of this kind of star the visage of a old, holy, righteous man full of light. Remember, the face was all white, and the hair was all white in a long white robe, something like this. And it was just a beautiful smile kind of appeared on this face, this kind of apparition's face. Remember, the eyes were like bright blue, just penetrating, piercing blue points of light. And he raised his right hand and he said, "Shalom." So I responded, "Shalom Alecha, Rabbi Umori." Peace to you, my master and my teacher.
That's what you're supposed to say when you're ready.
And then he smiled again with this beautiful, loving, brilliant smile, and then faded back into the star, and then the star kind of faded back into the sky and took its place there. And I woke up from the dream, it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, just so overwhelmed with the feeling of the sensation of that dream. I was lying there for like 5 or 10 minutes, just goose pimples like all over my body and a chill going up and down my spine. It was just an overwhelming and the most pleasant, elevating feeling. I was certain that it was some communication from the other realm. And it was hard to fall asleep, but then I did, and I eased into this beautiful, lovely sleep and woke up again in the morning, and I told my wife the dream, and it was very overwhelming, and I couldn't quite get the message of it. Then, that morning in davening, during the Amida, in Shema Kolenu, I asked Hashem to please help give me understanding, to understand the meaning of that dream. And all of a sudden, it came into my mind that the gematria of Shalom, which is what he told me, is Ben. If you take the gematria of Shalom and you make the gematria Ketana, it equals that of Ben, 52. 7, which is son. And all of a sudden it like fell into place. That this is the way I understood the dream, that Eliyahu Navi appeared to me in the dream to let me know that we had a son on the way. And it actually says in sources, Asher Misharo B'Halom V'Amar Lo Shalom V'Chzir Lo Shalom. Happy is the portion of a person who Eliyahu appears to him in a dream and says to him Shalom, and he replies to him Shalom. I don't know if I knew that teaching at the time or not, but in any case, afterward it occurred to me that there is such a teaching. And within 9 months, we had our first son. We called Shimon. I'm just convinced that was a true dream, which was all catalyzed by this visit to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Meron, and the fact that Eliyahu Navi was sent as a harbinger for this good tiding that we would have the son. And it seemed to be clear that the whole thing was about some kind of divine intervention, because after Shimon, we had another 5 daughters. So we had the 3, and then Shimon, and then another 5. So that was the whole mahalech. The whole mahalech was girls, and the only boy we had was as a result of the story that I'm telling you about. In any case, so that's the way it worked. The three boys, the 3 daughters, and then Shimon, and then the 5 daughters, and then after the 5 daughters, what's that?
Already.
Shimon was after how many?
Shimon after 3.
3 daughters?
3 daughters, and then Shimon, and then 5 daughters after Shimon. And then I got close to Aviv's Rabbi Naftali Simon, and I went and I asked him for special blessing that we should have boys, and he would daven on my behalf, and he says, basically he said something to me like, if you have a son, are you going to invite me to be the moil? And I said yes. And then he stuck out his hand, like, we're going to shake on this. Are you willing to shake on it? So I shook on it. That's called Tkiyas Kaf. That's like a shvur. Tkiyas Kaf. And lo and behold, the end of the story just walked in. And the end of the story walked in, right? It was his rabbi, who he actually got to know through me. And we had a son. So we had a son. So I invited him to be the mall. He was the mall. That was Yaakov. That was Yaakov Tzvi, the first of the caboose. And then it worked the first time, so when we were ready for another one, I went back to Rabbi Simon, and I said, Rabbi, we'd like to have a bracha for a son. So he said, if you have a son, you're going to invite me to be the mall? And I said to him, well, Rabbi, to tell you the truth, I was thinking I would do the bris myself. But what?
You?
Yeah.
No.
So he said to me, well, we'll see. Took out his hand. I had no choice but to take it. So I agreed to the conditions of we'll see. So lo and behold, another son was born. And it was Erev Sukkot. Yeah, and his bris was on Yom Tov. It was on Yom Tov. The first day of Yom Tov, of Sukkot. First day of Yom Tov. Yes, the bris was on the first day of Yom Tov. Yeah. And I had been preparing for once to do the bris. Rabbi says to me, I told you we'd see. You can't do a first bris on Shabbos or Yom Tov. It's against the halacha. Yeah.
The
That would
father can or someone else
the,
can?
a mole that would have been the first bris that I did myself, and the mole cannot do his first bris on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So the rabbi said from the outset, we'll see.
He knew it was coming.
Yeah. What? He was born shortly before Sukkot, and it turned out that the bris, the eighth day was on Yom Tov. Yeah. So yeah, so he ended up being the sandik and the mole.
But how did he nachem otcha? That was amazing.
Yeah. He said, next time you'll be the mole.
How many kids do you have?
That's what he said. He said, next time you'll be the mole. So we came back, asked the rabbi for a bracha. Yeah, for a son. Yeah. This time, yeah, he gave me the bracha, but he didn't make a condition that he be the mole. He didn't make a condition that he be the mole. Just in his hand, Bezat Hashem, Shat Tova, you should have a bracha for a son. And we had then the third of the tiresome trio. Yeah. And he was a boy. So we had the third boy, and that time I did do the bris. That time I did the bris, but the rabbi, of course, was there. The rabbi was there, and a part of it. So isn't it interesting that we were just talking about how sometimes you get messages through dreams, or sometimes you kind of think about somebody you haven't seen in a while, right? And they just happen to call you, or sometimes you're talking about somebody or something, and all of a sudden the person who's related to what you're talking about just drops by. And here, right, that whole story that I was talking crescendoed as a result of Aviv's just coming in at exactly the right moment. Did you notice that, Aaron? Isn't that amazing? I don't know if I would have even thought to tell the rest of the story if you hadn't come in. Yeah? But it had to be expressed, and you just. When's the last time you were here?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Months and months, right? Isn't that amazing? Punkt exactly what we're talking about, right? You notice that? Exactly what we're talking about. Okay. Well, I think that's a wonderful way to end the class, and we'll have to postpone going forward till tomorrow.